Okay, I think we are live. Let me just double check, yeah? So this is the first time I'm hosting this. Okay.
Yes, we are live.
We are live? Okay, can't mute your guests. Okay. All right, so very new to this new technology here, so I'm just hoping that everything is working fine. Okay, that's great. We are live. Well, today we have a special guest again. Our special guest, Mr. Sean Tan. Sean, how are you doing?
Very good, very good. I'm very glad to see you guys up your game.
Slightly. We are not that familiar with too many technologies nowadays, right? Too many software and things like that. Well, the thing is, while we up our game technology-wise, we want to answer or specifically discuss an age-old question that will get some people's blood boiling, which is the fact that do you buy car or do you buy house first? Have you ever been asked this question before?
Many times, in fact. Many times.
Okay, and let's just keep the answer to yourself first. Let me just quickly, by the way, guys, this is going to be the question that we're going to be answering today. Should you buy a car or should you buy a house first? But more importantly, I also want to just quickly share the fact that if you guys are new here, if you guys have listened to us before as well, please make sure you like and share this live show. This is live. We're doing it live for fun. There's no selling at all. Maybe John will sell his water bottle later, but right now we're not selling anything. Right, John, how are you doing?
Good. It's always good to be with you guys on a Thursday night.
Okay. This time today I forgot my whiskey, so it's gonna be a bit dry, yeah. So I went live because I was so busy playing with this StreamYard that I totally forgot about it. But anyway, let's get started and let's discuss something that surprisingly a lot of people are having. Like I posted this on my Instagram early today, and I was saying that, hey dude, like, guys, what do you think? You should buy a car first or should you buy a house first? And then a lot of people started like voting. I put a poll up and 83% at this current moment actually voted to buy house first. And then people started sending in messages to me personally saying that, oh, you should buy a car first. Oh, no, you should buy a house first. Like arguing this point here, which I thought is interesting. Like I never thought this could be such an interesting topic that should be discussed. So, Sean, team car or team house?
Team. Okay, it depends. So
you cannot play safe like that. Come on.
So I think team car first. So
Okay.
if you guys will ask like why, then maybe I'll answer later. Team car.
Okay, John, what about you? Team car, team house?
So for my personal experience, what I did was I bought a car first, then only I bought a house.
Was it a smart move though? Do you feel like that was a smart move?
Yeah, I thought the car made me the money to buy the house.
Okay, looks like this is gonna be a boring discussion because I am also on team car, and I think really we need to understand from a very different perspective. It depends on the person as well, but we're just generalizing. So we're gonna put this particular discussion in terms of people between the age of let's say fresh graduate all the way to the age 35 years old. How about that? Because I felt like this is gonna be the question that target this particular group of people. So in this particular case. Sean, like, why do you say car first?
Exactly like what Jonathan just mentioned. So if you don't have a car when you go, you can't do sales, right? You cannot run errands. You cannot go around and look for opportunities physically. But that was so after you mentioned, I think about it. So now there's like a car rental platforms that you can rent on a monthly basis, right? There was a teaching that I also shared last time is for people to buy a house first, so it will not affect your secrets. It will not affect your DSR if you buy a car first, right? So you buy a house, then straight away you go and buy a car. It will make more sense in that way, provided you have a family car. So for me, I only bought my very first car this year.
At the age your very first car this year?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So after like a series of properties later, only I buy my first car.
You're buying a lot of stuff this year, yeah. You're buying a lot of watches, jewelries, and
yeah. No, jewelry started. No.
Are you going through some midlife crisis or something?
No. So, but the thing is, I'm in a very fortunate position where I get family cars, right? The rejected like old cars, so I take and go, and I trash it like the Vios that I had was I think it's 300 over 1,000 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah. So really like if it's almost scrap value really lah.
Reliable car though of yours, like to real
Yeah.
Peter, you know?
Correct. So that's why I use it to really look for opportunities, really use it to grind, use it to find wealth, right? Instead of just find something to baby right now, which I think it's the culture that the youth is adopting right now. So like there was an article also written like the youngster regretted of buying the new Honda City or a new Honda Civic with his fresh grad salary. A year later, he realized that, hey, I can't really survive. So in that sense, again, your context of depending on what's the scenario, that I think that's the key word lah. So if you have a family car, use the family car first lah. Because if you sell the family car, also lose money. If you sell, also lose money on my mind. So use it for its value.
Right. So John, what about you? Like obviously you've gone through a very different phase as well. So you want to share a little bit?
So for me, when I came back to Malaysia age of 25, I was using my family's car. And I used to have this belief that knowledge is more important than packaging. So what actually got me to change my mind, okay, is I was running a business where I was also signing up agency leaders, which are unit trust agencies and insurance agencies, to work with me to sell my products. So that I was doing gold, silver, oil. And I always had a hard time trying to convince them. Okay. Had a hard time trying to convince them to work with me. So what really changed was there was one point of time, my mentor told me, John, get a two-door car. Okay. And then I said, crazy. I said, car is a liability. Why do I need a two-door car? Then two person only can sit. Doesn't make sense, right? Okay. And then he told me, he said, John, just trust me. You get a two-door car, you go for the meetings, right? Things will change. So I had blind faith. Okay. So I'm not a big car guy. In fact, I still remember when I got my car, that two-door car. It was a Audi A5. Okay. I still remember I went for my friend's wedding. And then my friend asked me, hey, you got what TFSI, all this kind of stuff. Then I asked him, what is that? I said, what's that? He said, it's some engine terms or something like that. And I was like, I said, I don't know. I said, I only buy the car because it's two-door. Okay, so tell you something interesting is, after I bought a car, then there was one day one friend called me. I drove my car to a bar. And then when I went to the bar, I saw the exact insurance agency leader who I met a year ago. Okay. And I said hi, he said hi, then we talked. And then he asked me, what's your name? So I was figuring out like, it's been a year since I first saw that guy. So maybe he forgot me already. Anyway, I only met him once. Then after I talked to him, right, I share what I do. Then he told me this, he said a year ago, there was one young guy who told me the same thing that you are doing right now. And I told him, that's me. He said, no. He said, that guy drive Nissan one. Okay, then I said, yes, that's also me. Yeah. Okay, and cut long story short, then he wanted to work with me. So I realized that in Malaysia, in Chinese market, okay, car actually helps you to make money. Yeah. So I bought a car because not what I believe. I believe that you should get a house first because my belief is house is an asset. Okay.
Right.
But then because of my mentor told me go and get a two-door car, then I just blindly go and buy a two-door car, and then that really helped me a lot in my business in terms of my recruitment. Yeah. So nowadays when people ask me should I buy a car or house first, to me it really depends. Today, if you ask me, do I need a car? We are working from home all the time. We are doing virtual trainings. We are doing contents. I don't think I need a car. Okay. But if you are into sales, if you are into recruiting people, right, to join your business, I think that kind of business you still need a car. A car is an asset. You cannot bring your office to go around and show people my office very nice, right? You need to show that car. So I think if you're in sales, you definitely need a car.
Well, I think we would like to add the fact that, well, what Sean was saying earlier, that car is not just, because I see that often, right, in self-help books. They always say that, oh, cars are liability. I think it depends. Most people don't know this. Depends on what business you do, but some cars in certain countries are tax write-off. Like in America, if you own a truck, it's a tax write-off, right? And in certain industries and business, having certain cars actually gives you tax write-offs as well. But I want to just say one thing, and I think this is really interesting because as I was thinking about content to talk about for tonight, I was looking into my recruitment policy prior to the pandemic. And one of the requirements that we have is that our employee must be able to drive a car. And this is referring to our education, our online marketing business. Our employee must be able to drive a car because I've had experiences where my employees are always late for meeting because they were being delayed by public transport. They couldn't make it, or they couldn't run an errand, or for example, let's say we needed this person to go to this place to go take some pictures or film some videos, couldn't make it because maybe something wrong with the train, something wrong with the bus, and there's always going to be issues. I think work is always too slower. So prior to the pandemic, we had a policy where you got to have your own car. You got to be able to drive, right? Because if you are just relying on public transport, I don't think that's reliable. And I'm not talking about people in sales here. These are not sales or recruitment position. These are just like we're talking about office position, creative positions, right? Like, what are your thoughts in terms of like these particular positions? We're not talking sales. We're not talking about business development, not recruitment. We're talking about in-office work. Do you think buying a car would be a wealth creation tool, a sales creation tool, or a career progression tool?
So you're saying if I work in office, I don't need to do sales, is it? Or
Yeah, yeah. Maybe creative. Let's say web designer. How about that? Web designer that sits in the office and design websites.
okay, Sean, you want to share your thoughts first?
To me, I'm because I've taken the LRT KTM for a very very long time. I know they've improved a lot, but there's still no guarantee that it's still not as certain as having a car in the parking lot and I can just drive out, provided flooded lah. So that one who also late lah. But as a web designer, I think it's still good because that opens up your mind in terms of possibilities. You are not restricted physically. Like last time, I'm like typing out, hey, you want to go somewhere, meet some people. I think that's also part of the importance because now without a car, right? Hey, you want to go anywhere? The hurdle is just too high. It just didn't. It just wouldn't incentivize the person to do something lah. So to me, I always believe that having a car, even if it's a small car, right? Even if it's a motorbike, right? As long as it can bring you to that location physically, I think it's good enough. But that opportunity, that possibility really opens up a lot in terms of your career lah.
Yeah, I actually written down on my notes right here. One of the biggest, three opportunities you get from buying car first over home. Number one is the fact that increase your chance of getting hired. So if you get fired or you get pay cuts and you need to switch job, guess what? A car is something that you want on your resume, right? Because with more companies now doing e-commerce, guess who's gonna bring products to the warehouse, or from the warehouse to the post office, to the mailbox, right? So all these people don't think about. They always think that, oh, I can take public transport. Dude, you can't carry like 50 boxes of cosmetic products that we needed to ship today, right? So like for me and the clients that I help, I can understand that the employees definitely need to be able to drive. In fact, some of the online e-commerce store, many of them actually are using their personal cars to ship products or to deliver products if it's within a certain, like let's say vicinity. Let's say we only sell to people in Klang Valley region. They'll take their car because it's cheaper than hiring a driver and a shipping company, because the shipping companies are not reliable here in Malaysia, right? So the second thing is, I think it opens up business opportunity. I think in business, sincerity is very important. So let's say we decided to go into business together, and I asked you to come out to let's say John's bar to have a cup of maybe a glass of beer, a pint of beer, and then you're giving me a lot of excuse. I have to take the train. The train is not going to work after 12 o'clock and things like that. Doing business is very difficult, so very limited, especially if you're entrepreneurial. So that's why I believe that it depends on who you are. I think you still can buy a house later if you want to. If you're one of those people that really believe in the fact that, I have my own ability, I'm going to work on my own ability, my own career, so that one day I can buy better houses, right? And in short, and the last point I have is just basically e-commerce. If you want to start a side hustle, a side business, an e-commerce business, you can't always get people to come to collect from your place. that there's additional costs. You want to be able to actually go to the post office and manually, discuss the deals, the shipping labels, and be able to ship these products. So in short, I feel like by buying a car first, I'm not talking about buying like a Porsche for your first one. I'm just talking about a car that's reliable, like a typical My-V. I think we'll be happy. I'm not a car guy either. For me, I rather own amazing watches and drive no car. I'm a weirdo like that. Basically my watch collections are triple or quadruple the value of cars. But the thing is, it really depends. Like for me, car don't excite me, and I know car excites some people. Some people collect cars, some people are into cars. So that's very, very different position as well. So talking about that, John, anything to add on that point?
I think it really depends on profession, because so my perception towards the ownership of car has changed since 2015. So in 2015, I bought another car where, while I bought a new car, I spent more money taking Grab. Okay. Back then was Uber and My Taxi. And the reason is because sometimes I feel quite lazy to drive. Or let's say you go to certain places, you have to look for parking, okay, and there's no valet parking, and it's a bit troublesome. So there was one point of time where I, although I have a car, but I always take Grab. Okay, it was only until I have a family, then I always have to drive my car already. Yeah. So I think it also depends on profession, because if you ask me, like web designer, do they need a car? I don't see the benefit of having a car for a web designer in terms of helping them in profession, or in terms of business. So to me, it really depends on what kind of profession are you. Yeah, that's my thought.
While we're at it, guys, if you're on the comments, type in, let me know, buy car first or buy house first. Maybe we're wrong. Just we're looking for someone to just we're hoping that this is going to be a debate, but everyone is on team car right now. This is a little bit disappointing. So if you guys have a reason why house first would be a better option, please type in the comments and we'd like to know. Meanwhile, Sean, I cut you off. I apologize on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so about the web designer, right? Because you don't have a car, then you will need to only settle before the pandemic. Like you will need to only settle for locations where they have public transport. Also, the office that is close to public transport, it will be the top choice for people who don't have a car to work. But then, whenever people ask you to be OT a little bit, I think web designer only starts working from home lately, right? Like now everybody works from home, so it's okay. But before working from home, right, I seriously cannot understand how people live without a car. Because in architectural term, in town planning term, right, there's this thing called the last mile. And this has been a problem for every country. So I can only connect you so far, like 100 or 200 meters away from the place you need to be. That's it. So Grab, when Grab came, it solved that indirectly, but it's still very, very costly to the normal people. And that's why a lot of people still stick to cars, because it's just cheaper to own a car than to take Grab all the time. And now a lot of people think that taking Grab is actually saving money. Taking Grab is for the rich now, unfortunately. Yeah. If you look at it, right, the same trip, so that's my thought as well. So especially in Malaysia, where the last mile is just terrible. A 3 minutes walk is very dreadful for Malaysians. When it's 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, right? Rains, shine.
Goodness, yeah.
I just flew to Penang for a work trip, and because I don't have a car, then I tried to take Grab. There weren't any because it's still locked down. So for a morning meeting, I need to walk 45 minutes.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I walked there.
So you're like sweating and all that, like
Yeah. So
you already feel
bit.
horrible. You already feel horrible before that meeting, right? So it's gonna affect you psychologically a little bit.
So whenever I just tell them, hey, so Sean, how you came here? Yeah, I walked 40 minutes, and then a lot of people like, hey, they got car, but there weren't any Grab because it's a new location that I was filming. So no one actually goes there, so that's the time where I went there on a flight because I want to save the driving time, but you cannot deny the convenience of just having a car right at the doorstep, right? You can go anywhere you want.
And I do believe by having a car, right, you are more productive in the day. You can pack more stuff into your daily diary. Because you can plan, okay, this is going to be a 15 minutes trip. Like
Yep.
when you take the train, I'm not saying train is bad. Train is wonderful. I take the train when I'm in New York. But train is unpredictable and public transport is unpredictable. There was 1 month we were relying on heavily on Grab. I went through a phase like John too, where I just absolutely hate cars. Well, actually, I still hate driving cars. And I'm just so tired because I need to find parking and, it's just really annoying. And I decided to go I think 3 weeks with just Grab. And guess what? It's not as easy as I was expecting because sometimes you cannot get the car because busy period, busy times, right? I think they call it peak hours or something like that. It was horrible, and if it's raining, man, sometimes it's just really really horrible. So that's why I said that I think having your own car gives you that ability to pack more work into your schedule. You can start 2 businesses instead of 1 businesses. You can be doing a side hustle, things like that. I also want to add the fact that from my perspective, if you buy a house, if you're at a position where you're thinking to buy a car or a house, that means you probably don't have enough money disposable wise, right? And I think the house can be a liability if you are not careful about what you do. For example, I call it the 3 M's. I'm not a property guru, but sometimes I say things like this. But 3 M's, right? Number 1, most people forgot about when you invest in property, you have the maintenance that you got to pay for, right? Specifically condominium, you got a sinking fund, right? Service fees and so on and so forth. And then you have the management of the property. If you decided to have someone manage it, or if you have to personally manage it, even though it's not money, well, sometimes it is, but even if it's not money, your time that's being taken away, it can affect you as well. And then also the 3rd M, mortgage, right? And, in an economy where, let's say there's, like for me, I'm heavily loaded in the expat area, so I'm very scared the moment next year comes because I don't know whether Malaysia is still going to be a city. Kuala Lumpur is going to be a city where expat will still come and rent my units. So honestly speaking, I'm more concerned about my real estate over my vehicles because my vehicle paid off. So once you paid it off, it's stress-free because it's a shorter loan term too. So that's why that's my personal opinion. So coming from property, what do you think about the 3 M's? Maintenance, management, and mortgage.
On the same trip to Penang, right? There's this friend that came and fetched me with his luxury car, lah, right? It's a 2-door, and every time he come and fetch me, then I think he wants to impress me, but I'm again not impressed at all.
Just to be clear, Sean, is it Jonathan's Sifu, Jonathan's mentor?
no. So when I went there, when I sat on it, there were some squeaks here and there. So the first time I sat, when he took a turn, there was like some bumpy feeling, then the muffler of the exhaust. And every time he mentioned comments like that, it's 7,000 to 8,000 just to fix it. And for luxury cars, if you don't fix the minor things, the bigger problems will come, right? We all know that. So if you are in a position where you have a car, a small car to just wansik, right, cari makan ready, then you now think about, do you want to upgrade your car or to get a house? In this scenario, I will always go for a house, right? So because yes, you have the 3 M's, but the value retains. 10 years down the road, right, the value is still there and you need not to stay yourself. You can still rent, but then you can always leverage on other people's money, other people's time, other people's knowledge to learn how to look for deals like that. But if you get a car, once you sign on the dotted lines, you drive out the showroom, it's half the value. Not half, but it depends what car you buy.
What if you buy like a pre-owned car?
Yeah, so like me, I bought a pre-owned car. So I got a hybrid, and on market value is 110, but I got it at 70. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
so like now, after 1 year of devaluation, I was just going to renew my insurance. It's still 68,000.
Right.
Yeah. So on a normal basis, the first 3 years, the pre-owned duration, right, took that hit of the loss already.
Right.
Yeah. So I think if you want to buy a car, there's also smarter ways to buy. And luxury cars nowadays, there's this conversation that renting one is easier than buying. You can rent a Lambo, like if you want to impress people, right? Go rent one. You want to do photo shootings and posters like this, right? Go rent one. It's way easier. Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, also I think I want to share one comment that was placed in by Timothy Tia. E-scooter. I used to e-scoot to work, cheap and fast. I think John, you want to add to that? What do you think about
He just bought a
e-scooter?
Porsche, man.
Yeah. I didn't know that
This guy
Porsche
just
comes
bought a
out with e-scooter.
Yeah, nice to see this. Yeah, but Timothy is a very smart guy, and he's always looking at how to optimize, right? How to optimize things. I think for Timothy is his house and his colony is actually very near, so he can e-scoot lah. Yeah,
Right.
but for if he's e-scooting from KL to let's say Mutiara Damansara, I don't know if he can do e-scooter so far or not.
No lah, siao eh.
Yeah, no, yeah.
What if it rains and a thunderstorm and
Yeah.
stuff? Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a interesting comment here. This is a little bit long, yeah. So I'm just gonna try to show it. Car is like any investment. If it brings value to comfort, convenience, and productivity, it is a good investment. Just have to understand it requires maintenance, fuel, car park, road tax, and insurance. So to weigh the pros and cons before making that investment. I think one's very interesting thing to notice. I didn't know about this, but recently I've been watching some YouTube channels, and one of the guys, their channel is called Timepiece Gentleman. One of the guys
Oh,
that was
okay.
following him on Instagram, he recently posted that he bought a G Wagon, which is the G series, like the, what do you call it, Jeep looking Mercedes Benz. Obviously, I know nothing about cars, you can tell by now. So and apparently he made money on the car because they discontinue the engine or something like that, and then it's a very rare car because everyone wants it right now, and then it's very hard, and Mercedes cannot come out with the production quick enough. So the car actually has a bump up in value. I've never heard of this before except Ferraris, but the car actually went up like I think $30K US dollars or something like that. Have you guys ever heard about cars appreciating in value, especially new modern cars?
Yep. So like that, whatever you just said, the G Wagon is like G63. So it's customized. It means that it's built by one person, and it takes around 1 to 2 years just to build one piece. That's why when you have a G63, there's a signature at the engine side. It means it's signed by the craftsman, right? That's why it's so valuable, and the waiting list is like crazy lah. And once the news of discontinuing, everybody goes crazy even, right?
Right.
Also in Malaysia, there's this subculture where people play Pajeros, then people play BMWs. So BMWs is the model before the electronic kicks in.
What do you mean
It-
play? Like they
Play
race
meaning
or what?
they, so it's like a hobby,
Oh,
and
okay.
they can, so they buy the car and they fix it up, and when they sell, they make money of it.
Oh, you can fix a car and make money off it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this
So you add
certain
value to it.
Yeah, so there's certain modifications. They can make it really nice. So they get like a scrap car. So it's a cultural thing where they know which Mugen rims to put in, which spoiler and they need to ship in mufflers from Japan just to match the look or whatsoever. Yeah. Then even Pajeros, like the 90s Pajeros, when you buy, it's like 28,000. But when after they do it up, the paint job, everything is done up, you can sell easily 40, 50, and people still buy it.
Wow, Pajeros. Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
So if you
yeah.
go to, I have a friend that is in this fashion line, and that was the pub that you shared with me in PJ next to Columbia Hospital.
I share a pop with you.
No, the location of the pub. What's that place called in PJ, where it's all Harley Davidson and all.
Gasket Alley.
Gasket Alley. So if you look in front of Gasket Alley, it's all parked there.
Right.
Yeah, so those are the people that really put in a lot of effort in looking for that right. When you lock the car last time, it's the stick one. They need to look for that part just to replace that part, replace the rubber around. Even old Mercedes-Benz,
Right.
like the Masterpiece series, I think a lot of people buy old ones, refurbish it, and sell for a profit.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the US, one of my friend bought a vintage car for like 100 something K, and then fix it up with another 100 something K. Apparently it took 5 years to fix it up because the parts are so difficult to source. They had to source from like Italy or like Germany or something like that. And once you fix up, the car can sell for 400K to 500K. And this is apparently one of the lowest value too, which is insane. Because I always had this idea that the moment you drive off the lot, the car loses money. I think it really depends on what car you buy.
Yep.
Right? And it depends on what's the strategy, which is you don't know what you don't know, really. Right? So
Then another
John-
crazy story to share, right? Before John, right? There's this model of, I think it's the 911 by Porsche.
oh,
So
yes.
there's this certain model that my friend got. It's actually a neighbor, lah. So a neighbor friend he got. Then because it took so long for the car to come in, so apparently it needs like 9 months to a year. But he got it first. Then when he just got the keys, another buyer is willing to pay more than what he paid for the car,
Just to get the car first.
just to get the car first.
So it's like an iPhone situation, yeah. Instead of lining up, you pay a few $100s more just to get the iPhone first before your friends does.
Yeah. So then he suddenly he made half a car. Then he would just wait another 6 months for his new car.
He
lah.
made half a car.
Yeah.
That's the premium. Oh my goodness.
Which I don't understand as well. So to him, it's like, oh, you gotta really protect, and it's a Porsche, it's not a car. Okay, whatever. But yeah,
Well, what I like about Porsche 911 is that the look doesn't change. So you can get an old one, like a really old one, and well, if you like if you're a car guy, you can get a really old one and you still look good. As long as you don't look into the interior, I think everything is good, right? But like, because John was saying that the car, when he was starting his career, car was used to open up conversations, open up doors, right? Getting your foot through the door. I think one thing that you can also do is, I don't know, but I think one thing you can do is maybe look at older versions of a car that the design don't change that much, like 911 as you mentioned, or maybe even I think the G-Wagon also has an old version, right? But and it doesn't.
it's still expensive, lah.
It's still expensive, yeah. Okay, so that plan doesn't work. Maybe you can
But-
just buy
but-
a Proton and say you're patriotic.
Yeah, but but there's this culture that maybe we can also look like as important as they want to say house is more important, right? It's still important when you drive a car, especially when you drive to a pub, right? People still look at your car first. But when you wear a watch that costs more than your car, not many people understand that.
Right.
And when you drive like a standard like Audi, BM, or Mercedes, right? Regardless of what model, that suddenly makes you rich in people's eye, right? So
Why do you think that is?
I've no clue, man. So to me, like a new Camry costs more than a second-hand Mercedes. But when you buy the Mercedes, it makes you look like there. You're like you have reached a certain level after you drive a Continental car. So there's this saying where you drive a local car first for your first one, then you drive a Japanese, then you only drive a Continental if you can. Yeah, so that's the saying that I was brought up in, and now when I look into continental cars, I have no feel at all. When I go into a car showroom, right? Seriously, I have no idea why people would pay such a money, but I don't know. But if you are so like a lot of people, a lot of my fans are also real estate agents, and every time they meet up, right, their cars are insane, but they are hugely in debt.
Why do you think that is? Like, is it because they're building a team and they're in the recruitment? Is that why?
Like what Jonathan said, yes, there's this belief that, I need to follow a person that is successful, and successful correlates to the car he drives, unfortunately. Right. But for watch guys like us, we see the watch, the car is nothing, man.
Yeah.
We can see right through it, right? So that's the thing that until today I still don't understand. I seriously don't understand.
Okay.
I can share my point of view, right? Because I did come from a wealthy background family. So I think all of us, when we were much younger, when we see friends who are getting into a Mercedes or a BMW, means that their family is rich. So for us, we grew up thinking like, if one day I can drive a Merc or a BMW, it means I kind of made it already, right? That's the naive way of thinking. So most of us, like since young, we kind of have that kind of belief. And then when you grow up already, the fact is not many people know how to look at watches. For most people, like for me, the only watch that is branded, which the rich wears, is Rolex. In fact, let me share you when I first met my mentor. We went to a bar, and he drives a Lamborghini. Then after that, we were drinking halfway. Then I look at his watch. It looks like a kid, right? It looks like a child's watch. It's a very big, bulky watch. Then I asked him, I said, hey, why are you so rich, huh? But why you want to buy Rolex? Why you buy this kind of watch? And then he told me, do you know what is this? Then I said, what is this? I said, I've never seen this brand. Then he took out, then he asked me where. It's very heavy. Then I said, I don't know what is this. I think it's called Richard Mille or something, right? You guys should know, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Plastic watch.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi, how
John,
much?
you're gonna get attacked on social media after what you just said.
So I was a young guy. I was like 25, 26 back then. I don't know what's that. So I said, why you buy this watch? He said, this one can buy a lot of Rolex. Then I kept looking. Then I go and Google. Then I was like, whoa! Oh, yeah, this is yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you see, like for me back then, I didn't know that this is an expensive watch. Yeah. So the only watch I know that's expensive is Rolex. The watch that I used to wear in school is G-Shock. So I only know like G-Shock, Casio. Yeah. So, but today, you know, the world of watches, there's so many brands, right? Like what you guys are. Recently, I'm looking at Desmond's Instagram, Tudor, is it? Yeah.
Tudor. That's
That is
Sean's,
his-
what? That's my what? Yeah. Well, the thing is, right? I think there's a huge difference in terms of watch people and car people, and then also hard asset people in general. I think watch the difference is the fact that, well, for me, I prefer watch over cars because I just felt like it's something that I can keep in like a small thing and I can travel with it. So if one day I want to move one of our episode, we thought if this country gone down to shit, at least I have the ability to jump to another country, right? I cannot bring my car easily with me. I can sell it, right? But if the country is going down, right? If I sell it, the car is going to lose a ton of value for sure. But watch, I can put everything in my backpack and then I can, that's it.
Yeah.
That's my way of thinking. It's like gold bar because John is a gold and silver expert as well. But just imagine gold and silver value, John, but in the form of watches.
Yeah, I
Now,
get
would
it.
it make sense to buy them now?
Yeah, because I do have gold and silver bars and coins, but I also have the collector's item, the Zodiac type. Yeah. Yeah. So I do notice that the collector's item, gold and silver coins, they kind of appreciate more compared to the regular gold and silver bars.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
Wow,
now that
that's
we talk
amazing.
about it, do you want to talk more into that? Share more. I think it's been years since you share anything about gold and silver, right?
Yeah. So I used to buy from the mint wholesale and I will sell retail on e-commerce store. I used to run, that was my first business when I first came back to Malaysia. So what we'll do is we noticed that during Chinese New Year, many people will knock on our doors trying to get the sneak coin or the ox coin. Yeah. So those which I cannot finish selling, then I'll keep myself. I use it as my own collection. Yeah. And then I still remember what happened was there was this year, which was the year of dragon. Yeah. And then I bought a lot because of dragon. I expect a lot of people buy. So a lot of people buy, but I still had a few myself. So I kept myself. Then I was giving my talks. I think on my 5th year, I was giving talks on gold and silver. So one day I just went on eBay and I searched on how much my dragon coin was worth. Right, I was surprised. Dragon one was okay, but I had one more coin which was an owl. Yeah, I think it was a Mongolian mint, right, by the Mongolian government, Mongolian mint. So the owl had a Swarovski crystal on its eye, and that coin actually went up by 15 times.
Wait. The coin has crystal on it.
No, it has the Swarovski crystal
On where?
on its eye. On the
and
eye
it's a
of
coin, right?
Yeah, it's a coin. Yeah. So that was when I was shocked. I was like, wow, why silver price went down, but the price of this coin went up 15 times? So then I start to realize it's because of the limited mintages, right? Like limited edition. Yeah. Then that's when I realized, wow, collector's item has a different market compared to the regular gold and silver market. Yeah. Then that was when I started buying more collector's item coins.
But this is because of supply and demand, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
a lot more people want that coin because it's special, and then that's why the value shoots, and then the limitation to it. So let's bring
Yeah.
it back to real estate, right? The housing market.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I've been driving a lot recently. Once we're allowed to drive around, I see a
Yeah.
lot of projects that are like halfway complete. I see that there's a lot of condominiums being built. I felt like there might be an oversupply coming soon, right? And if the people that choose to buy house over car, right, that means bear in mind, if they, let's just assume they got no family car, they're all on their own, right? They're coming out, they got let's say 200K, they want to invest in either a house or a car. Let's say they chose house, and then with my feeling, okay, I'm not sure if Sean feels the same, or John, if you feel the same. The way I look at it, there's a ton of units of property and small ones being released into the market soon. What would you feel if you're like you got 200K, you use it as a deposit to buy a house, and then your productivity goes down because of various reasons that we talked about earlier, and now you're concerned?
Like, I think this week alone, there's like 4 to 5 projects being bid. It means like almost 1,000 to 1,200 units being released, lah, right? But
Wait, this is in KL or
yeah,
where's
KL
this?
KL alone.
Oh damn.
KL alone. So like a lot of people are getting keys. So it's good for our renovation business because everybody's doing their makeovers. But then when you come to think about it, I still think that on a broader scale, land is limited. Prime land is even more limited, right? So if you can get one unit, so the scarcity mindset that you guys have, right? It's not the scarcity mindset, the topic of scarcity that we spoke about, right? Like the rarity of the collector items, the rarity of the watch, rarity of land to me makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so when you look into the timeline of 20, 30 years, there's no way you can get the particular location at a particular price anymore. Even if it's burned down.
I want to ask you then, because this is actually the same thought I had at the day I messaged you about Gasket Alley, right? Because and I was thinking, man, that, condominium is, I read a book, I can't remember who said this. I think it was probably Trump or something. And condominiums or office buildings are basically, I can't remember how he said it, but basically it's based on you building on the air, right?
Yep.
But I was thinking, right, instead of investing in a condominiums or office buildings right now, I was thinking, this must be crazy, but to buy lands and build something on top of lands. What's your thought on that? This is my personal selfish question.
So I think if you have the ability financially, go ahead. Because personally, I'm also hunting, right? But when you buy land, just be very mindful on what is in the title of the land. In Malaysia, there's a lot of express condition, the term and condition of the land. So sometimes you cannot build certain things. Sometimes you can, like even for agricultural, there's rubber tree lands, there's oil palm lands, there's kelapa sawit, there's kelapa land, and a lot of people caught by surprise. And if you are not familiar with land laws, because land laws also are different in accordance to state, so you be a little bit more mindful on the and when you, especially when you calculate on what developable area that you can do, usually it's only around 50% of the land that you can do over a certain size. So again, if you have 100 acres, it's a whole different restriction. If you have only 1 acre, it's the different restrictions. But to me, if you just want to park something, right, you have this amount of money that you don't know what to do with it, parking into a land, I think is okay. Because if you look into one of the biggest landowners in KL right now, which is Sime Darby, all bought land first and run it as the kelapa sawit first. Then now they are the largest. I think for the next 30 years, they don't have to buy any more land and they cannot finish. Because their latest master plan around, I think, Malacca's Ramban area, it's phase 1 alone is 10,000 acres. Phase 1. That's like 6 phases. So the entire development is like a state itself. But if you think about it, that's all supply, right? KLCC land is still prime. No matter how you go about it, it's still scarce. And to me, if you get the opportunity, because I was in the deal when Velocity was trying to sell their land. Subway Velocity, the piece of land, which is around 20 acres in a very nice form. I was part of the group of agents that was trying to sell this land before it was built. Yeah, so you can see how really people look into land, right? But just that the ownership of it, it's very slow. To transfer out, to do transaction is just very, very slow. And the amount of capital you need is just insanely high. People don't take loans for land actually.
Right. Right.
Yep.
So in terms of land titles, right? Like you were talking about, like, let's say farm agricultural lands, right? Rubber estates and palm oil. Is it hard to convert the titles?
You need to get a surveyor, but it depends on several things. So there's this national policy where there's a roadmap of how Malaysia is going to be. So sometimes a great land investor, they look at the particular zone. It's actually an agricultural land, but it's positioned in an industrial zone. So he was paying for an agricultural land, but because of its zoning, it's very easy to convert the land use. That's how he made his money.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So you need a lot of insider news to find your ways through, unfortunately.
Because the way I see it, land has less stress if you buy it right in the right location. The fact that you don't need any management, and I feel like when you buy land, when people say they buy real estate, with the oversupply of condominium, with what I felt, right, literally right next to me, right, they are building like what looks like thousands of units, which is insane, right? And I felt like when you invest in any of these condominium, and I'm a condominium investor myself, which I started to feel like we are just buying like a little box in the air, right? But when you buy land, I really felt like there's a lot more potential of what you can do with it, right? And you know, and land is truly scarce, but air you can always stack higher, right?
But but it's not like it's not like you can build another condo on top of the condo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But John, what's your thought on that, like in terms of this particular discussion?
I've never bought land before. I only have condos, so I can't really comment. I think land is a very different ball game because, like what Sean said, right? When you buy land, you can't take loan, okay? And the next thing is, if you have nothing on the land, you're just putting your cash there. There's no dividends, no passive income. Yeah, so I think it's a very different ball game when it comes to land. Yeah, so I can't really comment on that.
Yep. Yeah. But fortunate enough, we are in Malaysia, right, where the ownership is very friendly. It means if you buy a land, you have the title, there will be an exact copy of the same title in the land office. In certain countries, they are not commonwealth, right? They are lacking in this kind of system. So sometimes people may pretend to be the owner of a particular land when they sell to you. So there are a lot of scam cases, fraud cases where when you thought you buy the land, then 15 years, 20 years later, apparently the land does not belong to you. But you have been holding it, thinking that it was yours. Apparently then the owner will build something else on the land, then like you suddenly, why like that? And it's pretty common back then in Malaysia for fraud cases like this.
Right.
Especially when there's no technology. So I can just pretend to be anyone else. Yeah. So but land also, I'm the cool thing is the richest guy, the Bill Gates is the largest landowner in US. Farmland owners, which is insane. Like now, so if you have that mindset of buying a land with dividend first, so you can go for palm oil land, rubber tree land, durian was very hot. So I see a lot of people actually coming into Pahang actually to buy the durian lands, and they have made their monies. But then, unfortunately, the people chop their trees.
I think it's an interesting look into it, isn't it? Is there any form of like land type of investment in the form of like a REIT?
Not that I know of, but I think it's coming out soon. I think there's been plans where they want to, but they just cannot form, because in terms of forming of a REIT, 90% of your revenue needs to be consistent.
Right.
But in that manner of, so for example, if it's the mall REITs, right, they isolate out the business and the building. So whether or not the business makes money, the rental is consistent to the building. Therefore, the REITs can be established. Hospitals as well, they isolate out the business and the building. But for land, can you isolate out the operation of the collection of the palm oil with the ownership of space?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see anyone doing it yet because I think they are rich. There's no need to raise more money in letting people buy their REITs. Because actually, there's a lot of compliance to do when you are running a REIT. A lot of reporting to do. So as a landowner, why would I want to go into such deals? Unless I really need cash.
Right. Just wanted to bring that up just in case anyone. I just feel like maybe it could be an opportunity there. But anyway, I see a comment that's quite interesting. I'm gonna show it on here, another long one. Because of how it feels stepping out of an expensive looking car, the attention and opinions of others. After all, not everyone understands or wants to play the long game when one can portray success now. Even if every logical path to success says the complete opposite. We buy because of emotion, not logic, unfortunately. But same thing with houses too. People buy with emotion too, right? I'm
Yes.
sure, Sean, you have seen that or experienced that, right?
Yep. So even when people on this topic, right, car or house, sometimes when you think that the house is not an investment, also there are a lot of cases where people buy into their dream, hope they lose money.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So we are very familiar with that part of the story. It's almost to the rate of a car actually, and as a car you can exit quick. That's the good thing. But the house, it's nah. You're going to be stuck there for at least 10, 15, 20 years easily. And
Right.
it's a very dreadful experience when you are paying for a loan. Let's say you're buying a house at 1.2 million, but the value is going to be 800,000, right? But you took a loan of 1.2 million and you keep paying for 1.2, but you know the value is only 800. Does it make sense to sell and buy again?
I think as a conclusion, right, the thing that we need to aim for is you buy a car to get yourself in a position where you have holding power, where you have disposable income, so that even if, let's say, you cannot rent out for 3, 4, 5 months, you can still sustain that mortgage, right? And then once you're at a position where, okay, you bought a car and you're at a position where you have disposable income, now you can go and look into investing in your first house. But I don't know about you, Sean, but I'm a big believer where you should not, because I saw your post on Instagram, right? I just want to refer back to that. I think you posted today or yesterday, I can't remember. But I'm a big believer of you renting where you live, and then you buy real estate as an investment, and then you rent out to tenants.
Yep.
I'm a big believer in that. I just want to ask your opinion on that, and then also John. And before I pass the stage to you guys, just want to let you guys know my opinion. Why is that as well? I think what you say on your Instagram post resonates with me. At different part of your life, different times of your life, you need different types of housing. You need maybe a better location. Maybe not after you work at you start a business and you're very successful, you don't need as good of a position anymore. You can go and live a little bit further away in the countryside where you can be less stressed, right? Because you have your team working in the city for you, so on and so forth, right? So let's start with John, right? John, what's your opinion on that? Rent where you live and then buy for investment.
I think that is especially important when you're young, because when you're young, you have different opportunities. You are constantly on the move. So when I first bought my first investment property, at the point of time, I was still renting. And I was renting. Another reason why I was still renting is because I feel that this is like a dream house, but I'm not sure if it is suitable for me because it was a studio unit. Yeah, so I said, why not just rent first and then stay there for a year first, and then if it suits me, then after that I buy. But in the end, I still didn't buy that unit, that studio unit, because after a year of staying there, I realized when you go and stay at the beginning, wow, very cool, but then you see every day also, you kind of bored, you get bored with it. Yeah, and then I start to realize, okay, now I need something bigger. Yeah, so then I started to get something bigger until I realized, okay, yeah, if I want a home, right, I need a house of this size. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I believe, especially when you're young, before you have a family, before you actually settle down, it makes more sense to rent first rather than to buy first. And if you were to buy, it should be an investment. It shouldn't be a property that you call your home.
Right. Sean?
Like even if you want to buy a property as a home, there's nothing wrong with that actually. But so I've met a lot of there was one friend I was going to introduce to Desmond also. So he's in his 60s, ran a super successful marketing agency, and sold the business, right? So he has money in abundance. So he was just telling me he just got a condo that is 2,000 over square feet, 5 million for it, right? So he bought 5 million for a condo, but his landed house in Damansara Heights, right? He got in an architect to build it, everything. So it's like 7 to 8 million. So now when his kids are going overseas, then suddenly, Sean, but what do you think of the apartment? I'm like, okay, it's 5 million. Whatever I say is not really relevant at that time. But I say like, oh, it's just a place for me to settle down because I cannot maintain the house anymore. It's just too big from front to end, right? I just water the plant also, I tired already. So with that in mind, then suddenly that need, that temporary need, right, of the conclusion that I wrote in the post suddenly makes a lot of sense. So if you were to buy something as a home, also always do think about this is only temporary. So if the rental rates of the current moment you want to buy can cover 70% of your installment, right? It's a pretty much safe bet. It's always the danger when people want to buy a home where it's far away just because it's a landed. We are all brought up with this expectation of we must stay in a terrace house. That's our dream home. So they buy in locations that are super far away, like Rawang, or new locations, right, with master plan. But those locations, 7-Eleven consider luxury. Hey, 7-Eleven come in already. We are going to see a height. My God, right? So with that expectation, 5 years later, you're going to move. Like whatever Jonathan said, right? You stay 1-2 years already, you also feel you feel less connected to the house. What makes you think after you buy the house 5 years later you don't want to move out, right?
Yes.
So if you buy a particular location where it can somewhat cover 80% of your installment, it means demand for your space. Even if you move out, right, it can be converted into something that you can rent out immediately.
Right.
If you buy a very unique piece, you make it only to your liking, nobody want to buy it, also want to exit, also susah.
Right.
It's as if you're buying that coin and then you add 2 strokes of carving with yourself.
Right.
So so for those who want to buy a home, right, it's also be mindful on 5, 8, 10 years later. It's not a dream home that lasts you forever. And yeah.
Have you guys ever had thoughts like this? Every time I rent a place and then I moved in, before that you'll be like, oh, this is so wonderful, everything is fantastic. Then 1 month later you'll be like, oh damn, I didn't see this when before I move in. Oh man, I didn't see this problem when I was making that decision. Any one of you guys experience that?
John, go first. No, John, go.
I think during the early years when I was in Malaysia, for the first 5 years, I was shifting houses 4 times. Yeah. So everywhere I went, I always had this very fresh feeling. Yeah. It was until this past 5 years, as after 30, I don't shift that much really. Yeah. But to me, I don't really have that kind of problem because I'm very easily comfortable at home. I just want to make sure everything cozy, that I'm comfortable at home. And most of the time I'm outside. It's until this MCO that taught me that I need to have a home where I can work. Yeah. Yeah. And now that I have this room, most of the time when I'm home, I'm in this room, except for Saturday, Sunday. And also at night. Yeah. So I'm one of those guys who I'm always in my man cave. Yeah. So to me, I don't really have that problem. Yeah.
In my opinion, that is my entire methodology of doing the YouTube channel, right? So it's to let people know, hey, in this area there will be such problems. So if you're only if you're okay with that, go ahead with the deal, right? It's best you go into the deal with your eyes wide open instead of there's a lot of tricks that agents also pull where they make appointments on early evenings, right before the jam. Then when it's quiet, no one in the roads, right? Then the sunset really just that orange light just lightens up that space. It makes everything looks good. But when you wake up on a Monday morning, what the hell is going on, right? Why this space like that? Then workmanship as well. So there's just way more consideration if you're buying a house versus a car lah. But ultimately, it's rare you see houses in 20, 30 years time lose a lot of money. It's very rare, but they do have such cases, especially for developments that is within these 4 or 5 years time, because everyone is also building master plans in outskirt areas, right? But they are selling at the price of city price. So that's the trick. So yeah, so I think that's the place where a lot of people need to really be mindful, not to be too emotional attached to buying that home when you are buying. So if you are very, I think if like the two gentlemen here, you calculate almost everything one, then the house would most likely be better than a car.
Right.
But I have this senior that's very cool. Then he was looking at me because I was buying like 23, 24, 25, 26. I keep buying properties, but I was starving myself to death in terms of my lifestyle. No life, zero lifestyle. The same shoe I wore for 7 years, right? Until this year only I changed. Then he said, why? You should enjoy. And in terms of enjoy, suddenly cars pop to mind first. So that's again, you get to enjoy your cars, but you cannot enjoy your houses. And so even if you rent, you want to make it into your own, there's this reluctant. You want to spend 200,000-300,000 on ID on a person's property. It doesn't make sense also. Right. So and plus it's very difficult to look for a place that is the ID really suits your taste. That's even worse, right, to find. So again, there's this debate when I learned and I concluded that when to work until when I'm like 38, I will spend like 200,000-300,000 just on ID on my own home. So most likely I will regret it lah. So because the next buyer is not going to pay the same amount for whatever ID that you pour into the house, because it doesn't increase the value of the property also. So there's this debate right now that I'm trying to understand enjoyment versus hustle all the time. Right? We hustle so long already. I think all of us did hustle for the past 10 years easily, working so hard. But what do you enjoy? Just like Desmond, I enjoy timepieces when I'm stressed, when I'm in the flight, right? That 1 hour, just me and my watch, wow, amazing.
Which one were you looking at?
I was looking at my Coke.
Coke
1.6.
for those of you who don't know, Coke is not the actual Coca-Cola drink.
Yeah. So that is this vintage piece that I just acquired this year, and the patina of the light from the stratosphere. Whew, it's crazy. But then, so you enjoy these little moments, but without that watch, right? Then suddenly you like tired as hell. Then all the properties, at one moment of time, again, all my properties were insured. I didn't have insurance.
Wow.
Because I was worried that if anything happened to me, right, the loan of the properties are just too overwhelming to the family. Therefore, I insure them first. Also, there's this tipping point where now, if you are 50, would you want to get a car or a house again? When would you want to stop investing? That's another discussion that will be, I think, for the next topic lah.
I like the fact that you bring up the enjoyment aspect of it as well. I think when you live a life where you are just hustling and working and then not being able to put time for yourself, because I think people forget that you need to invest in your emotional well-being as well.
Yep.
And that comes from doing things that you like. If you like soccer, watch soccer, right? You go to the stadium in the UK if you support one of the Premier League teams, right? You got to do that, because I've known people where they hustle, and then they die of cardiac arrest at the age of 40 years old before they could enjoy the fruit of their labor. You gotta, I think having a balance is really, really important, right? So John, what's your thought? You want to just cap it off, finalize it?
Yeah, so maybe the last question for everyone. So summary, house or car, if you were to do it right now. Now we are all 30 plus, right? Yeah.
So,
Sean, you go first.
Sean, you the guess?
I just got a car, and it was a very practical move. I got a pre-owned hybrid, so to a certain extent, I forgot the location of my oil gas, like the because too long didn't pump petrol, right? I think 2 months didn't pump petrol. Then I don't know which side was the oil, the gas thing. Then to me, I am now in this position where I'm getting ready to really build up a home. So only last year during the last MCO, I bought a place that was supposed to be my home, and I'm now looking into ID designs. I'm looking into what would be that ideal house that is easy for maintenance in terms of cleaning details. That those window grooves without the groove, I don't want a groove. It looks good, but when you want to clean it up, it's because I'm going to clean it up, right? It's not to impress tenants anymore. Yeah. So in this particular junction, I will look for a home.
For me, I mean, I just need a car to get me from point A to point B. I don't know anything about car. The only thing I know is putting the key in there, turning the engine on, turning on the AC, turning on the radio or the Bluetooth music. That's the only thing I know. There's a lot of buttons in my car. I don't even know what they do, right? And I've never ever thought about what car to buy, even though my friends were like, "Oh, you should get this Porsche, this car, this fantastic car." I don't know what they're talking about. So, and I'm not excited about that. So the only possible, for me, I'm investing in watches right now, right? And because I am very well versed in terms of what to buy, what to avoid, things like that. But when the opportunity comes, if there's a house that I feel like, oh my God, this is a house that I will really want, either as an investment or maybe even if it's for own stay to settle my family in there, I think a house is a bigger priority to me than the car. Like for me, car just needs to get me from point A to point B. I never judge anyone by their car because one of my mentors has a public listed company. He doesn't have a car because he travels around the world and he doesn't even have a car. He doesn't need a car. He leases car every single time he lands in a country. He will live there for 60 days and then move on to another country. So even during COVID, which is crazy, I don't know how he was doing it. So that's what I learned. And for me, in simple sense to answer that question, I think for now a house, but that's because I'm in a position where I no longer am scrambling whether I need a car or a house. So John, what about yourself?
I'm at the stage where have a home, have a car. I don't see a need of getting another car for ego, but I think this is a interesting time where I believe the property price might get lower. Yeah. So I do think that the next buy, I'm actually looking at investment properties. Yeah.
Okay. By the way,
Welcome
we
to
got
the
some
club.
questions. We got some questions in the comments here. So let's try to answer them. I want to push the question up. When resources are limited, do we prioritize or is there a balanced solution? Rent room plus buy BMW, not enough money for petrol. Buy a house, drive Perodua, take LRT, buy rental property, rent room, drive Honda, Toyota. I think Sean, this is on you.
Yeah, so I think I'm familiar with this audience, right? He has watched a lot of my videos. Yeah, so it depends on what you want in that particular moment. So if you're 25, I think you can still go through that grid. I will rent room, then buy a rental property. Yeah, so I wouldn't rent room and buy a BMW. That's silly.
But
I will
why
rent a-
why BMW? Why everyone is like BMW, Mercedes, Audi? Why is it?
We are brought up in these brands, right? Like I can't even name like 3 models of Ferraris.
Okay.
Right? I can't. Like even Porsches, right? Like Boxster 911 and like are they the same? I have no
They
clue.
look almost the same.
Right? Yeah. And the weirdest thing, like my neighbors that day, he just got in a Cayenne. But when I spoke to him,
Cayenne
hey,
is the
nice.
what, is it the 4-wheel?
The SUV one. The SUV one.
Oh, okay, the SUV. Okay.
then
Honestly,
the-
I know nothing about.
we are the
This
wrong
is-
dudes.
Yeah.
So they came in a container, and then the car was delivered in a way that's so fancy.
Wow.
But because the uncle, then I said, "Wow, nice car," for business tax purposes. It's not for enjoyment because I think he made a lot of money. He needs to write off somewhere.
Yeah.
So then it's like,
depreciation,
oh, I see. So I think this is one point where I think a lot of youngsters, when they pursue dream cars, they don't understand. Like the Tan Sris of Sunway also drives Ghost by I think Bentley or Rolls Royce. Yeah.
Rolls-Royce, yeah.
Yeah.
Rolls-Royce.
At one moment of time, Rolls-Royce and Bentley were the same. Then he drives his own McLaren. So he loves sports car, but again, he buys cars for business purposes. So unless you make a lot of money, there's no point in like buying a BM. So I have a peer that is in the same development with me, right? So we grew up together in the career. He bought a BM, I bought an apartment. 6 years down the road, he have nothing. He lose money on the car, and every moment of time he needs to fix it because it was a new technology. The I think it was some hybrid thing also he bought. So it was an unpleasant experience. Even it's a BMW. Every 3 months needs to go to the workshop and they give him a Nissan Navara as a replacement car. So every time we go makan, he will need to drive a truck. Like, why are you driving a truck? Oh, my car repair. Every time we meet, and we meet like 2-3 times a year, what are the odds, right? Both those times he is driving the truck. So yeah, but then on my side, the investment made me a lot of money, made me wealthier, and no issues at all. The tenant is still there. So I think in this question, I think I would, if I want to strive again, I would rent a room, get a car, maybe a Viva, a second-hand Viva where I can pile off cash, right? And start hustling. So you determine when on 28 or 32, you want to start enjoying. Because I realized the main reason I got a bigger car to this year is because I had a kid. So that sense of safety played a role. Like when I have the kid behind me, suddenly when I was braking, right? This is what I'm paying for. Not that local car when it scream, then you pray whether the car can stop or not.
Right.
Yeah. So suddenly, like, hey, if there's any minor accidents or whatsoever, at least we are safe. And I think that was the value that I was paying for. Then I realized that lah.
All right. So John, you want to chime into that question?
No, I think I totally agree with Sean. Yeah. But for me, one more thing as well is depending on your profession, what do you do? If car can actually brings you revenue, if a BMW can actually brings you more sales, right, more income, then to me, maybe you should consider BMW. But if you really want to consider BMW, Audi, or Merc, my suggestion is don't go for BMW and Audi. Yeah. So
Wait, John, I want to ask you a question, right? Just a segue in, right? If a dude comes in wearing gold Rolex, right? But he drives like a Viva, like, you know, Baroda, right? Viva is Baroda, right? How would you feel when it comes to, let's say you want to do business with this guy?
Okay, if he drives a Viva, but
he
he's
wears
wearing
like a gold Rolex.
Yeah. The first thing on my mind is that gold Rolex real or fake?
Real or not?
Right.
Exactly what I had in mind also.
Yeah, it's just like last time I was in Singapore, I was working in Singapore, I'll see girls who were like colleagues, back then I was in HSBC, colleagues who will save money just to buy a Louis Vuitton bag. Okay? But then they will go and take bus and they will take MRT. Okay? Then every time I see, right, my question is, the LV is real or fake? Huh? Yeah.
Correct. Exactly. So I have this friend, a friend also was trying to sell me products. So when I was looking at his car, it was a Vera, but he was wearing an AP.
Yeah.
The Gerard Genta version, which is like, sure, no, is this? But then suddenly I realized that fake watches is also a real problem in the world that we live in. There's a lot of fake watches out there.
Yeah.
So if you were to judge somebody on the watch, it's not as correct as well. So and in Tabungin, you go in, hey, let me see your watch. Cannot, why am I so rude, right? So yeah, so somewhat, but I think that if you are in that level where you can really bring the watch, right, you can even rock a G-Shock if you can.
Right.
Yeah, so I think if you are in the business long enough, I think you will have that eye for it. Even if a big boss comes from a Viva, you know this person different on it.
Yeah. The aura, right? The aura, the confidence.
Yeah, the aura is different one.
Let's
So it's either you
go
wear.
to the final question by Brian here. I'm gonna put it up. Yeah, this is by Brian KZ. A question to everyone: if you're given the chance to go back to the 20s, fresh grad with no assets, which one would you guys go first? Property, collectibles, etc. So this is not just limiting to just car and houses. It could be watches. It could be gold coins. It could be anything, right? That is seen as an investment or can propel your career further, right? So how about we go with John this time?
So if anyone who's in the 20s, my suggestion is at that point of time, even if you invest into, let's say, gold, silver, or cryptos or business, uh, you if you don't have a lot of capital, then my suggestion is go and learn how to make more
Build.
money. Yeah, learn how to build. Number two is invest in networks, because it's the networks that can give you more opportunities. Yeah, so to me, anyone 20s, this would be my advice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sean?
It depends on whether you have capital or not lah. So if you got no capital and you're happy with your job, right? You want to build wealth, then you can use property as your leverage, because it's one of those rare tools where they give you 90% loan. Then you get to leverage on that without committing a lot. Then if you have money, if you have capital, then I would go into crypto. But like what John said, that is provided because only a person with stable active income will understand how to build passive. If you are still merely surviving on your active income, right? Please focus on active income first, because it's very dangerous to think about making money off investment. Yeah, so because you can, it's right to only invest money that you are ready to lose, as they always say, right? So focus on building the active income first, because that's also easier than building a passive income. If you can't figure out this active income right, I think your passive also wouldn't go that far lah.
Yeah, so I often say this to my students, if you are thinking about passive income, you're just lazy, right? Honestly speaking, why do people want passive income? They're just lazy. I've got wealthy friends who have really decent, sizable passive income. They choose to focus on active income instead, because they said that they went 1 year, just relying on passive income, and they've gone crazy. They felt like they're rusting and they're dying. So I think work on active income and then put money in ETFs or whatever that make passive income, in short. But if I'm going back to 20 years again, I wouldn't change anything. The first thing that I did last time was, even if I have very little money, I would invest to go to conferences and events. And which resonates with what John was saying, because I want to let people know that I'm a serious business owner. Because even though I'm young, because when I was starting out, everyone said that you're not serious, this is just a phase, So I wanted to let people know that I'm a serious business owner. I'll go and negotiate big deals with no matter, who that person is, and focus on learning a new skill set, reading, networking, getting mentors. Very, very important, right? Because these are the people that will tell you car or house, in short. These are the people that will tell you watch or collectibles, in short. And, one of my mentors always say this: success leaves clues, right? How these people become successful, ask them, and then just follow exactly what they have done. And you can't go wrong there. So, hey guys, thank you so much. I think we over exceed the time a little bit. Any last advice or last words before we cap this off?
Rare scene, this is just an observation. Like in a lot of neighborhoods with a lot of rich people, right? There's always a Myvi in the house.
That's true.
No matter of whatever, this house got a Ferrari, there's a Porsche, there's a whatsoever, right? There's still a Myvi for them to do stuff with. Yeah, so that's a cool observation to add some fun to the conversation.
Right. John?
I think something interesting I've gained here is, you see, like, we are even talking about cars. Some of these cars can actually make you money, right? Not only as for sales or what, right? You guys are saying like some of these vintage cars can actually make you money. Okay, so property, some of it can also make you money, can also make you lose money. So at the end of the day, I think it's not about car or house that will help you to make money. It is what you know about cars or what you know about houses,
Yes.
right, in detail, that will allow you to see opportunities. Yeah.
Nice.
True. All right,
Yeah, that's
guys.
fun.
Yeah, for me, as I said again, I wanted to say the same thing, but we're gonna say it towards more like, you don't know what you don't know, and if you know, you unlock millions of opportunities. I've got friends who don't need to work. He just buy watches and then 3 months later sell the watch and then make 100K. And that's all he does. He buy and then do nothing for 3 months. Oh, the price goes up, sell 100K. For most people, that takes like 1 year to make that kind of money. How is he able to do this? Because he knows something that most people don't. That's it. So you need to acquire that knowledge, that skill set, and gain that confidence to do it, because the knowledge is not enough, right? Like for example, if I tell you Apple stock is going to go up tomorrow, why some people will not buy? Fear, right? And doubts, skepticism. So you need to learn to overcome those behaviors and the emotions as well. And then as you get stronger there, you're not going to be worried about money at a time. So, thank you so much, guys, for jumping on board. I hope you guys enjoy it. Give us a like and share this entrepreneurs experiment. I don't think there's a lot of shows like this in Malaysia where we go so frank, such a open discussion. Share this out and then let us know how you like it and how we can improve it. Thank you very much to Sean for sharing again, for jumping on board again, even though it was pretty last minute. Thanks again.
No problem. I enjoy myself.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right. Bye bye.